Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Infinity, and this is Magnetize Yourself, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course, the law of attraction. In today's video, we are doing a little reading and energy update for our beautiful collective here on YouTube. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you for sharing your own powerful light energy here with the channel. Know that simply by tuning in, whether you are someone who actively comments or whether you are a silent listener, in either case, your frequency is actively co-creating all of the messages that come through here, because these readings are truly taking place at a quantum level. So thank you for joining me here in the fifth dimension. And I'm going to go ahead and start shuffling. I am going to be doing a 7 chakra read for today's video, which, by the way, if you are new here, then welcome. I channel these collective readings every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And on those times and days, I always do an extended version of the readings as well. So the link to access that either on YouTube memberships or on Patreon is in the pinned comment and description box under the video, just in case at any point during this reading you start to feel guided to check out the extended. So I am going to be pulling cards for each of the chakra centers, and we're just going to see what wants to come up here. So I am going to start with the traditional tarot deck, and then I will be clarifying the cards with 2 of my other decks as well. By the way, I am drinking a cappuccino, so nothing terribly exciting today, although I am just a huge coffee lover, so I love even a simple coffee drink like an Americano or a cappuccino. And if you are eating or drinking anything during this reading, I would love to hear from you in the comments about what that is. I always think that's a fun way to connect as a community here. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. If you hear me sipping in the background or taking a pause here and there, that is probably me drinking my cappuccino. Okay, so how are you all doing, by the way, with this total lunar eclipse energy? We're definitely still really in the midst of that energy. And I did an Instagram post on what I perceive to be some of the strongest themes around this total lunar eclipse. So if you aren't yet following me on Instagram, my Instagram is at Magnetize Yourself. I have been really having fun posting there a lot more lately, so I would love for you to connect with me there. I love posting text posts that are very real time. I usually get like an in the moment idea or download and then construct it into a text post pretty immediately. So it's a great place to follow me for those kind of real time insights and downloads. Okay, so what can I channel for the root chakra? Let's start with the root chakra energy and then work our way up. Okay, so here we have the Star card in the reverse position. And for some reason, my guides are kind of telling me to share the text from the Instagram post that I made about the total lunar eclipse. So I'm going to share these messages with you in case you missed them. Even if you did actually see these messages, I feel that while I'm reading them, this might actually unlock something new for you, some new layer of meaning from the messages. These also may actually be thematic when it comes to this reading itself. So these may present themes that actually continue to come up through the reading. So the first slide of the post says, "The total lunar eclipse is closing cracked doors. Some people left the door open just enough to keep you warm, not enough to meet you fully. this eclipse is asking you to reevaluate the connections you've been quietly holding open. Are they showing up because they're ready to honor your soul, or just making sure they still have access to your light? So I'm actually feeling guided to read some of the text and then pause and go deeper into the meaning. So this lunar eclipse is closing what I called in a previous reading pathways of access to you that may have been like these cracked doors that were not fully closed, that you may have even been holding space for because you are very intuitive, and you may have sensed that you held a lot of potential with these individuals, but it was just that potential because they were not fully rising to meet you in that potential. I feel like there was this hope that some of these individuals would step up and kind of meet you in that energy. And of course, in many cases, that can occur. So I am definitely leaving space for that. But I know that for some of you, there are certain people from your past, or certain friends, or maybe romantic people from your past or present, that you've kind of left a door cracked open with, that your intuition has been telling you to kind of close out, to allow that era of your life to end or to close, at least for now, to call that energy back to yourself. So if you've been feeling intuitively guided in that direction, then this part of the message may be for you, because we've been channeling into people who desire to have some kind of access to your light or to your energy, to kind of keep you warm so that they know that they can revisit that connection later on in the future, but who haven't really been fully showing up for you, rising to meet you in that potential. So let's go ahead and pull some cards here on this subject. Is there anything else I can channel about these connections with cracked doors that are closing? Okay, with the Ten of Swords in the reverse position, I feel that allowing these doors to close is actually going to allow you to finally heal from something emotionally, to finally fully recover through closing that chapter or closing that door. I get that some of these connections with the door kind of cracked open were actually affecting you more than you may have realized. And this really seems to be sitting on the root chakra as well, which can be connected both to the subconscious mind, but also the manifested physical world. So what I'm getting here is they were subconsciously affecting you, these kinds of half-open connections. They were subtly undermining your sense of worth and draining your energy. But although many of those effects were subconscious, they were showing up in real ways in your physical reality, in your tangible manifested reality, or even potentially creating blockages for you. Now, I do get that when you close this door, it's very likely some of these individuals will have a major wake-up call moment within themselves. Some of them may even try to rise above the challenges or obstacles that they had been refusing to face for a long time. They also may come forward and clearly ask for your forgiveness because of this wake-up call moment. Now, of course, it's entirely up to you whether or not you are open to receiving these individuals back into your space or into your life. But I am picking up that once you fully close that door, there's a good chance that many of these people that we're describing here will actually have a major wake-up call and want to do better, want to ask for your forgiveness. I'm getting a lot of Scorpio, Sagittarius, Aquarius, and Gemini energy here. Yeah, I'm actually getting that by closing the door, you are inspiring them up to the highest version of themselves. I'm also getting that you are the most magnetic and the most attractive when you've called all of your energy back to yourself. Now, I'm getting a very specific romantic message for someone. This will only be for a very small group of people. But for a small group listening, I'm picking up on a message that specifically in romance, there is a person that you kept the door open with. This may have been a masculine, and you may resonate more with your divine feminine energy. Although, of course, keep in mind that when I use these terms, divine feminine and divine masculine, these are labels to describe energy dynamics, not necessarily particular genders. And we all have a balance of both energies within us. But what I'm getting is, if you are more the divine feminine here, there's a masculine that you kept this door cracked open with because you sensed a lot of potential for your connection with this person. But ultimately, over and over again, I'm seeing there was like a habitual cycle or pattern of them disappointing you or not living up to that potential. But you now fully closing this door and calling your power back to yourself, ironically, that's making you extremely magnetic and attractive to this person. And it's also been a major wake-up call for them because they're realizing that you now know your worth and your value, and that you are no longer willing to tolerate them refusing to rise to their own potential to meet you there. And so I do sense that some of these may be in that group of people that comes back around and actually wants to improve and better themselves and overcome obstacles and ultimately come back into your life in some way if you'd be open to that. But of course, again, whether or not you are open to that is entirely up to you. But I do see you inspiring this masculine up into this King of Wands energy, into this higher version of themselves. But the way that you inspired them was by shutting the door and putting an end on your side to this cycle where you allowed yourself to be pulled into a dynamic where you were giving your heart, giving your time, your energy based on potential that wasn't actually being fully embodied in the present moment physical reality. So that was just a little bit of a side message for someone. Now, I want to read the second text slide on my Instagram post, and this says, "The total lunar eclipse is burning off guilt energy. Your system can no longer tolerate the frequency of guilt tripping, control, or energetic manipulation. Even subtle pressure now feels like static in your body. The eclipse is your reminder. You're allowed to walk away from what your nervous system has already rejected." So what I was getting very strongly from this particular message that came through is that your physical body has really been speaking to you lately when it comes to you picking up on dynamics of control or people who may be trying to guilt you or shame you or repress you in some kind of way, even if it's happening on a deeply unconscious level. I feel like your body, your system has become so sensitive to picking up on signals of that control, and you almost can feel it like a pressure in your physical body or like a tension. And I'm getting that you are meant to be attuned to those physical signals because your body has its own sense of intuition, and it's reading the energy between you and these people or groups or dynamics or whatever this is for you that are subtly trying to restrict you or control you to appease themselves, to make themselves feel more comfortable in their own stagnancy. That's what I'm picking up on here. And there's something about just giving yourself the permission to honor what your body is sensing, what you feel drawn to, what you feel good around, what you feel harmonized around, and what you feel dysregulated around, what you feel overwhelmed physically around or tense, and to listen to those signals and allow yourself to be connected to people, spaces, environments, opportunities, etc., that feel good and right and aligned and harmonized in your physical body, because your physical body has its own intuitive mechanisms that are sometimes faster to interpret energy than our conscious minds, even when we are very energetically in tune and psychic. So the next message that came out here is the total lunar eclipse is sharpening your focus. Every ounce of energy you used to pour into uncertain people or draining dynamics is being called back to your mission. Your purpose is calling for purity. You're not selfish for choosing clarity. You're just finally in alignment with what matters most. So there is this sense of something pulling you forward, some kind of vision or dream or idea or goal. And I'm hearing you're going to find renewed inspiration to take action in whatever that direction is for you, but the energy to supply the action, the energy to resource the action is going to come from you calling your energy back from these draining people situations or dynamics that you've been subtly keeping yourself open to in some kind of way. So that message is actually very intertwined with the first one. And then finally, the fourth text slide on Instagram says, the total lunar eclipse is collapsing timelines. The version of you used to dream about, she's here now. Your present, past, and future selves are merging. The eclipse isn't just releasing, it's activating your next vision. So this ties back into something that actually came up in a previous reading where I talked about how I was getting this sense of the past, present, and future versions of you all coming together. And the way I described it is, it's like right now you're living in a vision that past you used to have for future you, which is now present you, if that makes sense. And you're now envisioning yourself into a future version of self and like merging into that future version of you. So there's this sense of the past and the present and the future all being connected. I heard the words transcendental meditation. So maybe for someone, meditation is a beneficial tool that you can use to merge this past, present, and future version of yourself to fast track yourself into a higher energy, to fully merge with that future version of you in a sense. For some reason, I'm getting that scene from, I think it might be from some kind of movie, but I don't really remember, where there was time travel in the movie or whatever this was that I'm thinking of. Maybe I'm just coming up with this, but I feel like I got this from somewhere. And someone would leave a note because they knew that if they left a note now in this current timeline, that this means that the present, this is kind of complicated for me to, I'm not doing the best job explaining it here, but basically by leaving notes for themselves, they're ensuring that future them is leaving notes for present them, because present them is leaving notes for past them. Does that make sense? It's like, because present them is leaving notes for the past version of themselves, that means future version of them is leaving notes for the present version of themselves. And it's almost like they are relying upon the past or the future version of them to leave them that note. But the way they're building that self-reliance is by doing that for the past version of them. And so what I am kind of trying to get to here is there's almost this self-trust that you are building with all versions of you on all timelines. And part of the way that you can do this to actually merge more quickly into higher versions of yourself and higher timelines is to start connecting with the past version of you. And essentially, wow, this is getting so interesting. I'm really thinking about creating well, for sure, I want to make a subliminal for this. For those of you who use my subliminals app, Sound and Soulful, that is coming soon. I spoke on this subliminal I wanted to make before because I know many of you are using the app and would really benefit from this. So I am working on that. But I also might, in connection with that, create a guided meditation as well, because I'm picking up that if we had a guided meditation to essentially connect you, present you, with past version of you and then future version of you, we could establish this loop that we're talking about here that could then help you to shift onto that higher timeline and into that higher version of yourself more easily. So anyway, that's kind of something I'm toying with here, but there's this sense of you building trust with the past, present, and future versions of you, with all versions of you existing on every timeline, every plane of existence, in order to be able to travel between those versions of yourself more easily. So this, for whatever reason, this kind of reminds me of, well, I was such a weird kid, but when I was a kid, I used to ride the school bus, and I remember being on the bus and I would sometimes think in my head as though I was talking to future versions of myself. And I would sometimes talk to these future versions of myself and try to remind them not to forget about present, like little version of me. I don't know if any of you did something somewhat similar where you would somehow keep like a thread of connection or communication with like future you or past you. I'm seeing someone writing in a diary or a journal, so maybe this is how you would do that. But there's this sense of like connecting yourself with the past and the future versions of you in order to create this kind of thread that runs through every timeline and every dimension that you can then follow to more easily shift into whatever version of you are desiring to connect with. I know we're getting really quantum in this reading, but I hope that that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if you have any of your own stories or experiences with this or thoughts about this, because I do always love reading through all of your comments. But anyway, let's go ahead and reshuffle here and see if we can move up to the sacral chakra. I feel like we've talked a bit about your manifested physical world, your subconscious connecting with the root chakra. Well, actually, my guides are saying there's still more to say on the root chakra energy, which I know is only one of the 7 chakra centers. So most likely because of all the messages coming through here that I've really wanted to speak on, we will have to carry some of this chakra read over to the extended. But let's go ahead and see. There's something about stability, stabilizing yourself is what I'm picking up on here. This may be one of those times where I'm hearing there's something about manifesting your dreams or desires and how sometimes you're in a state where it feels like you can really excitedly visualize or affirm or start taking action or imagining yourself into this future version of you, and it feels exhilarating and exciting and you see results from that. But there are also times where you feel like it takes every single ounce of your energy simply to stabilize yourself, that there's really no energy left over in those times for visualizing or affirming or really jumping into that new reality. And know that this is completely normal. These are seasons and cycles in your energy that are to be honored. And I feel that for many of you, especially around this intensity surrounding the total lunar eclipse we are currently experiencing, you may be noticing you're in one of those stabilization phases where you are really focused on simply keeping yourself grounded, keeping yourself stabilized, keeping yourself at a baseline, so to speak. And that doesn't mean you're losing any progress. That means that you are on this powerful landing of integration, sort of like landings on a staircase. When you climb up a bunch of stairs and then you take a rest on one of the landings and then you start climbing again, I feel like you're on one of those landings right now. So you aren't actually losing any of your progress, but if you're feeling more tired than usual or just feeling like you're not as inspired to take a ton of action, but you just need some time to settle or ground yourself, know that that's completely normal. You're being inundated by a lot of energy around this full moon. So really honor and respect whatever cycle you're in, whatever you need right now. I would love to do a future video on shifting between like manifestation techniques or energy techniques in a fluid and intuitive way, depending on what you're sensing is happening within your system in that moment, because the most effective manifestation techniques and tools for you will vary depending on what kind of state that you're in. So in certain states, more active visualization, affirmation, those kinds of things can be so powerful and can really quantum leap you towards your goals. Whereas if you're in one of those stabilization phases, trying to push out a lot of that extra energy can actually leave you very frazzled. It can cause you to burn out and to actually lower your energy, kind of contradicting the flow, so to speak. But it totally depends on what's happening in your system at that given time. So, of course, all of that you already know intuitively. You're probably already very in tune with that. But if you'd like me to construct that into some kind of future content to go deeper into it, do let me know in the comments. So let's move up to the sacral chakra. What else? I feel that for someone, being in that stabilization phase may have constricted your sacral chakra energy a bit. I feel that you may be feeling a little bit uninspired or lacking some of that energy or passion at the moment, simply because you're kind of in that stabilization period of time and you're receiving so much energy that needs to be integrated. So again, if you are part of the group experiencing that, please, please, please give yourself the respect, the care, the love, the nourishment, the softness that you need. Because if that's what you're feeling called to, that is exactly what your body needs. And it's actually what is most productive for you right now when it comes to manifesting in your life. Rest and stillness and nourishment and softness can be incredibly productive when it's what your system is calling for. So with the moon in the reverse position, and well, that's funny because the moon in the reversed automatically makes me think of a lunar eclipse, which is exactly what we've been going through. But I feel that this lunar eclipse is bringing out suppressed emotions that are no longer willing to be silenced. And specifically, these emotions may be coming up as like irritation, frustration, or even anger at times. And even anger can anger can be very sacred, because when you find yourself getting irritated or frustrated or angry, this can be you finally saying, I've had enough. I am no longer willing to tolerate this dynamic. I'm no longer willing to tolerate being manipulated or controlled or guilted. It's like you throwing off that energy or that frequency. So I'm getting that someone here may be experiencing that, and know that that's totally normal and natural. This is suppressed emotion, no longer willing to be silenced, coming to the surface so that it actually can be released. And ironically, by allowing yourself to honor that anger and that frustration, to ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? How have I either been denying myself or been somehow mistreated by a situation or by others or by an environment that's caused me to feel this frustration or to feel this anger? And doing that can actually allow you to release that emotion, which ironically allows you to soften into even more love than before, and allows you to shine your light even more brightly. This is like the essence of shadow work here. So some of you may be going through that around this lunar eclipse experience. But yeah, I'm feeling with a 3 of Pentacles reverse, some of this frustration coming up for you may be about situations where you feel like you've been carrying too much on your own, where you feel like you've been carrying all the weight emotionally, spiritually, mentally, maybe even physically, either in a connection, in a social group, in a workplace, in an environment. And this frustration you're feeling is actually inviting you into deeper softness with yourself, a deeper nourishment of yourself, and a more profound awareness of what you need and how to meet those needs, so that that resentment doesn't build up beneath the surface, because you know that you are being taken care of. You know that you are internally in a state of balance and harmony. And I'm hearing very strongly that you can't be afraid of looking like the villain in someone else's story, because the sense that I'm picking up on is that for someone listening, part of why you may have repressed these emotions is because you knew that if you were to fully express your truth, the people involved wouldn't be able to fully hear you or understand you. And you wanted so desperately, of course, naturally, to be understood. But the thing coming through here is, if someone's on a different frequency than you, no amount of words is going to explain you to them, because it's not about the physical words. It's about a frequency mismatch that is not allowing them to hear you, to truly hear you, no matter how many words you use to try to explain yourself. So there is like this invitation to accept that truth, to accept that if someone isn't on your frequency, they are not going to understand any explanation you give them. And that if someone wants to paint you as the villain for doing what you need to do to choose yourself, for loving yourself, for nourishing yourself, caring for yourself, meeting your own needs, making the most self-supportive decisions. If someone wants to make you the villain of their story for doing that, then that's on them. And you don't need to explain or try to justify making the most self-supportive decisions for yourself. That's an energy coming up really, really strongly around this total lunar eclipse. So the last chakra center I'm going to channel into in this reading before we head to the extended is the solar plexus chakra. And I have to tell you guys, I know I mentioned this in the last, 2 videos ago, because I am doing daily videos now on the channel, which I am so excited about in and of itself. But I mentioned in a recent video that I am thinking about doing live streams where basically we do readings like this, except they are live. So you guys can chat and I can interact with the chat at the same time in real time, which I think would be so fun and a great way to really share in that real time collective energy. I think it could be so powerful. And many of you seemed excited about that idea as well. So thank you for all your interest in that. And I really am planning on doing that. I feel really good about that idea. So anyway, with the solar plexus chakra, we have the 10 of Pentacles and the Page of Cups. And what I'm getting here, well, first of all, the 10 of Pentacles, wow, a huge, abundant, successful kind of energy. And the sense, I literally got this scene in my mind of you closing a door behind you, and then suddenly this dark room slowly starts to illuminate into this big, beautiful, like the most glorious sunrise I've ever seen, opening up expansive before you, but you are completely alone and it's silent. And that's where the Hermit card at the bottom of the deck and the Temperance card come in. Because what I'm getting is there is this feeling lately like you've been maybe a little bit disconnected from people around you, or maybe you've even shut a lot of doors and burned a lot of bridges to your past to call all of that energy back to you. And I see you finally like shutting this door, and then it's silent and you're alone, but then this beautiful sunrise opens up. So for some of you, you may be feeling a little bit lonely or kind of in your head or alone when it comes to some kind of endeavor or pathway of thought that you've been taking, like feeling like there's something in your life or about yourself that feels lonely, like something you can't fully open up to about with others, or can't fully connect with others about, if that makes sense. I almost feel like this is maybe your dream, your vision, an aspect of yourself that feels isolating because you feel like this is something you have to do alone, that no one else is going to fully understand it. But then you shut that door and you turn your back to the door, and suddenly you're facing this beautiful emerging sunrise. And there's the 10 of Pentacles here representing all of this abundance and success and fulfillment flowing to you in this new phase. And phrases I kept getting around this even prior to this reading were, it's almost like I was hearing the end of an era, but the beginning of an era. I was hearing both of those messages simultaneously, like they were overlaid on each other. And it's funny that I saw you like turning your back on the closed door, almost like maybe for a while your focus was heavily on what you were letting go of, the doors that were closing. And it's like your spirit is saying, turn around and turn your back to the closed door. Look at this beautiful big sunrise that's expanding in front of you because you had the courage to close the door on the past version of yourself. But it's interesting because what I'm getting is when you close the door on the past version of yourself, you are actually fulfilling his or her true desire. It's like that past version of yourself dreamt of being able to open up to this beautiful new expansive era of your life, this metaphorical sunrise that's happening in front of you. So you're making their dreams come true by having the courage to do what that past version of you couldn't do, to cut out the noise, to eliminate the distraction, to close the door to versions of yourself that didn't really know their own worth, in order to make that past version of yourselves dreams come true. Because what I'm getting is the kind of dream life you're stepping into never could have happened from the past version of you. It's like the past version of you dreamt the dream and imagined that someday this fantastical reality would happen. But that past version of you was not equipped to actually be able to manifest this dream. So much of the process was actually you becoming the version of you that was capable of manifesting your past self's dreams, if that makes sense. And you've now become that version. You've closed the door. The sunrise is opening up and you're ready now to make his or her dreams come true because you've become the version of yourself that has the ability to sustain and to fulfill those dreams. So that feels like a really powerful place to close the reading for now. I will be channeling into the heart, throat, third eye, and crown chakra centers in the extended reading, as well as whatever messages want to come through there in addition to that. So if the extended reading is calling to you, if you feel guided to it, the link to that is under the video. And again, you can listen on either YouTube memberships or Patreon, depending on your preference. But I am going to close this first reading here. So thank you so much for being here with me every single day since I've been doing the daily videos, which I've been absolutely loving. And I know many of you have been loving them as well. If you haven't yet subscribed, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you are first to know whenever I post new readings like this. You can also follow me on Instagram at Magnetize Yourself, where I've been posting a lot of inspiring text posts and energy updates. And you can now listen to my channeled music on Spotify under my artist name Songs by Infinity. I am a singer-songwriter and I have produced 3 channeled songs there so far. My third one was just released recently, and the name of the song is Hard to Reach Places. So there's a direct link to listen to it on Spotify in the description box of this video. And if you do enjoy my music, Spotify is the best place to follow me because it's where you can read the lyrics that I've channeled for each song, which I know often connect with people in unique and personal ways. And you also will be first to know whenever I post new music because it usually drops first on Spotify. So thank you so much again. Oh, and I talked about that past, present, future self subliminal I'm working on. If you don't yet have the Sound and Soulful app so that you're ready for that, the link to download the app is under this video as well. I'll leave that in the description box also. So thank you so much again for being here. Thank you for being such a valuable and beautiful part of our community on YouTube. And as always, I will connect with you here again in tomorrow's reading.